Yesterday's Canada podcast number 4, a podcast series to explain Canadian history from 1713 to 1800 AD. This is an 8-podcast series being posted on YouTube under the name Prehistoric Pixel. These podcasts will showcase major events, disputes, battles, and more. Stay tuned, episodes drop every Sunday. Our topic today is Canadian history from 1746 to 1756. Early in the 18th century, an epidemic of typhoid fever among the Micmac people in Nova Scotia highlighted how susceptible Indigenous communities were to diseases brought in by European settlers, foreshadowing the catastrophic events of epidemic diseases on Indigenous populations throughout the continent.
Just proves you gotta get the vaccine.
Under the direction of a French aristocrat, the Duc d'Anville expedition of 1746 arrived at Checkbukto, now Halifax Harbor, with the lofty goal of driving the British out of Nova Scotia and launching an attack on New England. But unfortunately, internal strife and illness among the French men derailed their preparations, exposing the difficulties in organizing massive military operations in the hostile and uncharted territory of North America.
Uncharted. Anyway, the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, which ended the War of the Austrian Succession in 1748, France signed, which regained possessions of Fortress Louisbourg and Ile Royale.
Louisbourg!
And changed the geopolitical landscape of the area, as France had just lost the war to the British. Weren't you supporting the British and the French again? Okay, whatever. A turning point in the history of French colonial control occurred with the appointment of Jacques-Pierre de Tonfel de la... How many last names does this guy have? As Governor General of New France in 1746. His goal was to strengthen French power in the face of growing British incursion. A significant British response to the French presence in Louisbourg was the founding of Halifax in 1749 by General Edward Cornwallis of the UK, as the British sought to establish a strategic footing similar to how France has Louisbourg.
In the continuing proxy war in India, during a period when there was no state of war in Europe, factions aligned with European powers battled for control. On one side stood Nasir Jung, the Nizam, and his protege Muhammad Ali, backed by the British. On the opposing side were Chanda Sahib and Muzaffar Jung, supported by the French, both vying for the coveted title of Nawab of Arcot. The conflict escalated as Muzaffar Jung and Chanda Sahib successfully seized control of Arcot, while the subsequent death of Nasir Jung allowed Muzaffar Jung to consolidate power in Hyderabad.
However, Muzaffar Jung's reign was short-lived, as he met his demise soon after ascending to power, leading to the Salabat Jung becoming the new Nizam. In 1751, British military leader Robert Clive led troops to capture Arcot and effectively defend it against opposition forces, aka the French. The culmination of these events came with the signing of the Treaty of Pondicherry in 1754, which formally recognized Muhammad Ali Khan Wajah as the Nawab of the Carnatic.
Meanwhile, the shifting tides of war in India had broader consequences. The conflict in India also prompted France to recall numerous troops from various parts of the world, most notably from Canada and Senegal in Africa. The withdrawal of military resources from Canada had unintended consequences, weakening their position in North America and contributing to the outbreak of conflicts such as the Pontiac War and the Huron-Bassin Wars.
Tension between the British and French colonial powers increased after the French and Indian War broke out in 1754, sparking a lengthy battle that eventually enveloped most of North America.
The Indians will obviously win.
The crucial Battle of Fort Oswego in 1756 is which the Marquis de Montcalm-led French force took control of the fort, highlighted the changing regional power dynamics and the French military's increasing might.
Take that, British.
On May 28, 1754, a pivotal moment occurred at the Battle of Jumonville Glen, where a joint British and native Mingo force, led by the young Lieutenant Colonel George Washington and Chief Tamacharison, ambushed a small French contingent. This skirmish marked the beginning of a wider conflict that would engulf the colonies on both sides of the Atlantic.
George Washington, as in George Washington?
Indigenous groups were drawn into fighting as it raged, forming alliances with both British and French armies to further their own agendas. Despite its eventual failure, the 1754 Albany Plan of Union represented efforts to create a united force against the Native American resistance and the French expansionism. As the war progressed, the British made significant gains, capturing French fortifications in New France and the Ohio Valley. These victories tilted the balance of power decisively in favor of the British forces.
Meanwhile, in Europe, the balance of power was shifting as Prussia emerged as a formidable challenger to Austria's dominance within the Holy Roman Empire. The diplomatic revolution of 1756 realigned European alliances, with Prussia forming alliances with France and Austria forming alliances with Russia in a bid to reclaim the province of Silesia. Sensing the imminent threat of war, Prussia preemptively sucked against Saxony, triggering a cascade of alliances and declarations of wars across the continent.
I must say, Prussia is a poo-poo head.
Ordinary people's lives are severely impacted by the chaos of the war, from the arrival of German immigrants in Halifax to the struggle of indigenous groups to make sense of the constantly changing alliances and conflicts surrounding them.
That is all for today's daily podcast. Make sure to subscribe to Prehistoric Pixel and stay alert for the next episode in the series. This is Yesterday's Canada,
Tuning out.